Hello and welcome! So I've already been playing Rune Factory 5 for quite a while, and now I keep hearing that some of you guys started questioning whether or not to get the game as its Western release is getting closer and closer. And why the hesitation? Well, Rune Factory 5's initial release version didn't exactly come out as polished as many of us had been hoping for. So today we'll be discussing whether Rune Factory 5's bugs and its choppy game performance, as already experienced in the Japanese game version, will still make it worth it for you getting the game in English to its release in less than 2 months in March. Me having a Rune Factory dedicated channel, I am sitting here like, of course, do definitely go and get it. I am going to tell you why I love it so much. But on the other hand, for all of you guys who are still on the fence about it, because these types of technical issues do matter a lot to you since they might diminish the overall enjoyment of playing a game, in that case, I have been digging through the Japanese patch notes once again to give you a rough summary of the updates that Rune Factory 5 has been receiving for the Japanese game version up to now. And I'll also be talking about how my own game experience has been so far, and if bugs or frame rate drops have been bothering me personally. But now, without further ado, let's jump right in. Rune Factory 5 got released on May 20th, 2021, fairly flawed, quite a lot of game-breaking bugs and a slow overall performance, long loading screen, and the list goes on and on. But marvelous, the developers reacted very quickly to their fans' criticism with a day 1 patch, and followed up later with a series of 12 more updates in the course of roughly half a year, from March up to November 2021. Their first day 1 patch already included important adjustments such as shortening the loading screen times, stabilizing the frame rate, and fixing a list of bugs that were preventing the player from proceeding with several events. But there were quite a lot of other bugs left that did upset many Japanese players, to the point that they stated on Twitter that they've been feeling like they're being used and treated like beta testers for an unfinished game. I'm not going to go too much into detail about each and every existing bug at that time, since the list was really long, and after all, mostly everything has been fixed and resolved up to now. But back then, the game has been reported to be rough to play through for many players. There just had been way too many events that couldn't be triggered properly, or situations in which you couldn't even load up your save file anymore, NPCs you were talking to got stuck in their position as they were, or they just became invisible entirely. Some bugs have made farming a little tedious since you couldn't properly plow every square on your fields, and in some cases people got stuck on the crafting screen while trying to cook or while doing blacksmithing. And some people also just seemed disappointed with how the game turned out to look like and perform. The positive side about all of this is that the developers have in turn tried to eagerly fix every issue that has been addressed by the players. I think I tried to count each bullet point they had noted down for every new implementation or fix, and I counted roughly over 130 resolved issues. Wow. And that is just the number of explicitly mentioned bug fixes. Often, they would just summarize a whole collection of bug fixes with a short note saying, "fixed several minor bugs." So the actual number of bugs that have been resolved must easily surpass these 130. One very notable change that I'd like to mention here is the added dynamic resolution option that further stabilizes the game's frame rate in a sacrifice of the game's resolution. So if you have this option turned on, the game will then try to keep the frame rate stable around 30 FPS and the game performance smooth, so that it won't feel like your character's movements or anyone else's in-game are stuttering. However, your game graphics might appear more blurry and less pleasing to the eye on the contrary. They have also kind of adjusted how far into the distance you can see your own field at Rigbar's headquarters, and it will now actually unload your farm area as you keep distancing yourself from it. Most likely, this is to stabilize how the game will be performing while you walk around in town. Lastly, but definitely not least, I wanted to address it properly much earlier, but I completely missed the correct timing for it due to having been on a long break. But the very last update at the end of 2021 actually did add same-sex marriage as an option for all of us. So while this has absolutely nothing to do with bugs and frame rate issues, it is still a very big and important update that I want you to at least hear about once. Marvelous has in fact started to achieve a big change for the game to become more and more inclusive for us, and it is actually thanks to our localization company Xseed that had been proposing this problem to the original developers. So if there was anyone out there who didn't know about this change yet, I hope the lack of inclusiveness won't need to be your #1 reason for not wanting to purchase the game anymore. Now, as for my personal experience with the updated game version, I gotta say that performance-wise, I would definitely say that the loading screen times have been shortened now, and I don't feel like I'm experiencing major issues with the frame rate that would hinder me from enjoying the game. For example, it is not stuttering so extremely hard that I simply can't go and fight monsters, or that I absolutely can't do farming properly at all. But what I'm still noticing myself though is the frame rate drop in town, especially when the game is trying to load a new area because I've just been approaching a door or a gate. Then the frame rate is set to drop down from 30 to around 12 to 15 FPS at times, but even then I do believe it is still bearable. As for the bugs, I actually kind of consider myself somewhat lucky here, because while I started playing the game right at release, I first didn't run into any issues or bugs, and then I was forced to take a break from playing the game due to personal matters, and when I came back, the game was actually already fixed and I have not run into any serious game-breaking bugs ever since. I am still playing the game recently and it's been working just fine for me. Maybe that is odd, maybe it is not. If any of you out there are currently still playing the Japanese game version, let me know how your experience was or is right now, or if you're still waiting for the Western release, tell me if you are fully convinced of getting the game and what are you hoping to get. I'd be curious to know. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to jump on the Rune Factory 5 hype train. I also love discussing Rune Factory 5's cast of characters, so if you do get your hands on the game, my videos might help you decide on your favorite character to marry. Or let's even choose one together. Anyways. Seeing how many flaws the game used to have might make you feel slightly negative at first, but at the same time, I keep saying the same for Pioneers of Olive Town too, but in fact, it is a blessing that nowadays it is possible to improve and fix up a game long after its initial release with continuous updates, and over there in the West, I'd consider you out there even more lucky than us players in Asia, because you are gonna be getting a completely polished game right from the get-go. Either way, I don't think that there is any reason for you to be holding back on purchasing the game if you're simply afraid of experiencing more bugs. However, it is still up to you what to make of the game's visual presentation and looks. Yes, it has been said to be having a rough performance in terms of graphics and world design too. The frame rate drops in town will probably be noticeable. Some people might even go as far as to say that from a technical standpoint, this game is not up to nowadays standards compared with other games on the Switch console. But honestly, I am here having a bunch of fun with this game, and it could partially be because I am simply a fan of the Rune Factory franchise, and Rune Factory 5 just evokes this nostalgic feeling in me. Just seeing Rune Factory 5 become a reality at all after Rune Factory's original developer Neverland had been facing bankruptcy, I dare to say that it truly did feel like a dream came true for many of us fans. I do still sincerely think that you are going to have fun with this game if you do enjoy genres like these. If you enjoy farming, if you like crafting and dungeon exploration, if you love socializing with the NPCs, I think so much work and love for detail went into the writing of all of the different character dialogues and date events. There is a story that you can indulge yourself into, the skill system feels rewarding, all of these aspects and features are still out there for you to enjoy, but only if you allow yourself to overlook how the game visually looks like. I hope I could help you out a tiny bit in deciding whether to get the game or not. Either way, I will be right here for you, and I'm always extremely happy to spot some of you in the crowd in the comment section. So thank you so much for being here with me and supporting me. It is really every single one of you that drives me forward. But that has been sappy enough for now. Have a lovely day, and I'm hoping to see you in the next video.